Crack it.
Usikreki, crack it.
Already, just when you blinked, and we're already 6 months into 2020. And the question is, what are you doing with it? Some of the things that we do here is have those conversations that are necessary to have. Because if we don't talk about it, it's easier for things to slide under the table. We don't talk about it, then these things don't come to light. And that's what Kenya's biggest conversation does every day. We're getting into a conversation this hour. When we took to the vote in 2022, when Kenya took to the vote, the questions around the diaspora and their contribution towards governance and what they would or would not be able to do was front and center of many a conversation. And it still is today, 2 years into another one. The executive committee member of the Diaspora Technical Working Group is Wycliffe Mobek Mogaka, and he is here fresh off the plane like a hot loaf of bread on a Tuesday morning. Diaspora voices in electoral reform is one thing that we'll be talking about today. And Mobek is here. Good morning.
Morning to you. How are you, Ndu?
I'm very well.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Nairobi. Welcome to Kenya.
Yes, Kenya's home.
Yeah, okay, welcome home.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Right.
We'll be looking into this. Quite a number of things for us to look into. We hear about the huge numbers in terms of money that comes into the country, in the billions. And so the voices behind those contributions want to be involved in governance. And it needs to change is what we are being told. We'll look into that in just a bit. Mark here has gone to Eswatini this week. That's where our proverbs are. And CT has delegated his power to Mark to share the proverbs with us. So Mark did the thing, went to Eswatini. He's got proverbs from there this week. He's going to share that with us, and we would like to get your interpretation of the same. Yep?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
So Eswatini, of course, is one of the lands that keeps its cultures very vibrant. They still wear their traditional wear,
Cultures,
that.
yes. They're legalia.
Yeah, and they keep their traditional system of governance. We see, Kenyans always say sometimes that perhaps we should try things how things used to be. It does not always work out, it seems. But they have wisdom there, and they say that when a gorilla is in power, the monkeys are happy.
Wow.
When a gorilla is in power,
the
monkeys are happy.
It has a similarities with another something that I saw yesterday somewhere on the internet saying, if you go steal from the bank, you'll go to prison for 10 years, maybe probably. But if you go to the bank and take a loan, you're gonna pay the loan for 30 years. Which best theft that you can do? So similarly, like what you see right now, what is happening in the country is just pretty much the same thing that we're seeing. The bigger gorillas out there, and the monkeys are chatting down here because they think something's gonna drop from them. Yeah, that's my interpretation. Yeah.
Interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, the election and the diaspora activity or engagement in an election and the process leading to an election and the process after an election has always been a point of contention. And I'm going to start off with what may seem a little bit controversial.
Right.
But folks have said, come on, Mobek, you guys decided that you were going to leave Kenya. You said that greener pastures is what you were seeking for, or you wanted to get an opportunity to work outside the country and earn.
That's correct.
Why should it then bother you about the things that are happening back home?
Man, this is our home. Every single thing that happens in this country, every decision that is being made in our absence here and all that, whether right or wrong, it affects us directly because still is our home. As much as the people have left here, have gone outside the country and all that, all their eyes, they are looking back to their home where they come because this is home for all of us. So anything that is happening over here kindly affects us directly. So we want to be involved in all those kind of things that are happening here, part of them, especially in budget making and all that. Like decision making when it comes to the finance bills, they are going to affect the country, pretty much the financial whatever and everything else. So we really want to be involved in that. So for you to be involved in that is just part of like, where's your vote? Does it matter? That's the most important thing that I think. Yeah.
You see in terms of when you talk about public participation that you should be involved, but you see public participation in the country, even for a Kenyan living in Mathare is not involved. So how then do you expect to be involved if you're living in Minnesota?
How do you expect to be involved? Okay, Let me put it to you this way. Involvement is in very many ways. When it comes to public participation, the people outside the country are kind of, in a large way, they are forgotten. They are just put like, you can be out there, that's all that we see from you is you already left. So what you can do is, let's just get what you guys are giving us. But now I think we have more than that. And that comes with a lot of skills, comes with a lot of involvement in terms of ideas and all that. So that's the contribution that we're trying to see. So when the decisions are being made in the country, we want to be part of it. Like let's just share. Let's see. Let's be a part of the problem or the solution of whatever that is happening. Yeah.
You know, the Constitution does envision that
Right.
diaspora Kenyans would be, for example, be able to vote, which is the highest form of expression of that, what do you call it, public participation.
That's correct.
But the question then begs, first, we know that any Kenyan of standing can be able to send memoranda to the House, right? Or to any minister, really, if you want to. The question that usually begs is, are our diaspora communities organized? That is the first issue. Because I'll give you an example. Dubai has, 3-4 chairmen of Diaspora Association for Kenya, right? You've got the same in many other countries. The ability of Kenyans outside the country to organize and then be able to represent a position is something that has been lacking. Is that something that Kenyans in the diaspora are willing to work on? Because it's not going to work if it's going to be individuals writing 3 million emails to the state.
Mark, I promise you, this time around things are different.
Vitu tofauti.
Squeeze vitu tofauti nikwambie. The diaspora wants to be a part of this, and more especially when they come into 2027, they just want to make sure they make a difference in what is happening. Because far much left, they've been outside the country, like been left out in each and every single thing that is happening. Right now, the diaspora is focusing on how can they be part of it. You know, all those kind of small groups that you've been saying, they've been submerged into individual business things that people have been doing.
Yes.
And it's happened. And that actually has really franchised the diaspora. Because all the entire diaspora was franchised because of the people wanted to do their own things. People are so far away from one country to the other. Communicating was a problem. You know, everything has a teething problem. But right now, it's absolutely coming together because of the problems that are affecting the country here. It's just everywhere. So right now, the DT, the Diaspora Technical Working Group is now how can I say? It's just now global. Each and every single. We just made like 2 trips right now so far, trying to make sure we explain through the IEBC. We make sure we explain through all organs which are involved, from the judiciary, the legislature, and everyone who's involved. Who can just come to our aid to make sure that the diaspora this time around, they are going to vote and make that decision by themselves. Yeah.
Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
Logistically speaking,
Right.
The Kenyan diaspora is spread far and wide, right?
That's correct.
And our voting system is still physical, right? Is there a plan, probably for mail-in voting? Because you know there are 2, let's say, quote-unquote embassies, one in DC and the other one in LA, right? So how then are people living in Kansas, Missouri, etc., able to interact with these 2 embassies, which are basically the polling stations during elections, so that they are able to actually count their votes? And for me, the only way I can see is mail-in voting.
No, actually, that's a very contagious question. If you're going to say mail-in voting, I think now the question of trust begins in there.
We still doubt when we show up physically. So the question of trust and the elections.
Mail voting, I don't think the mail votes. I don't think is the way to go. But what you're looking at this time around is on how to come with a system which is going to be very technical in a way whereby you can easily not mutilate anything else out of it. But let me just explain to you what you just said about the logistics part of it. So you see, the diaspora is not only in the United States. The diaspora is everywhere.
Yes, true.
In the globe, right? But now we've identified the United States and Canada, let's say America, to be like the largest host of the most Kenyans, right? And it's the one which is really known, as we can say. But right now the diaspora is large. We have Europe. We have Tanzania down here. We have Germany. I mean, like I'm just trying to just pick up countries just randomly. So what is happening right now here? For instance, like the people in the diaspora, we are really fighting for mobile voting, whereby we just select areas that we know where the distribution and of the diasporans, of the Kenyans who are in the diaspora are in large numbers, and that's where we're going to take up for them to be voted at. Like, most especially, we have churches. We have where people normally just gather for events and all that. So it's us in the diaspora who know all where those people are. And that's why we want to involve with them, with the IEBC, to guide them, to help them on how we can do it to make it possible. Because this time around, people really want to make sure they vote. They really want to make sure they make that decision themselves, so that they don't be in a situation whereby, we were left outside. Yeah.
So what would that look like? When you say help the IEBC to guide them to see then how it would actually happen? How would it happen?
Because that one has to be guided in the law. It has to be brought in the law. That's why, 2 months ago, actually in March, we had a meeting with JLAC, and we discussed at length on how they can have that incorporation in Act 38 of the Constitution, so it can easily consider the diaspora to be part of the voting, so they can easily be in the system. It's just been known in the law that this is what is going to happen by increasing more voting stations. Because if you can, as Mark put it, if you're going to put it like it's just only in DC, logistically, it's not possible for someone who's in Kansas to go to DC. It's very expensive. So, but if you put it, let's say, for instance, in Kansas City is going to harness all these areas, all these small states which are around there. Kansas, Missouri, we have Nebraska, and all that. If you put it in Minneapolis, you're going to capture Wisconsin, part of Iowa, and all those areas. And we know areas, like in Atlanta, we know where we can easily put all these people. So it's us in the diaspora who know where the people are. And we are coming out in the open to just try to explain to the IBC. And again, there are challenges of budgeting, doing all this. And again, the State Department is giving resources on where the database, whereby the distribution of the diasporans are. So all those kind of resources, we're going to put them together to make sure that we are part of the team that is going to make sure like each and every single person in the diaspora who has to have a point where they can easily vote closely, and it's not expensive for them to do it.
Okay. When you're having this discussion, the Diaspora Technical Working Group, the people that you engage with mostly would be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? And even when you're having that discussion, in order to know where Kenyans are in terms of population, mainly because you find the decision around LA and Washington is pretty much because of the population, and also because that is where we have the what do we call
the Constitution?
Yes.
Constitution.
Yeah. So now, how do we have
not
this?
Minnesota?
Sorry.
The Constitution is not in those two places.
No, I'm not saying the Constitution.
I'm saying the concentration.
No,
of
I'm talking in terms of where we have the embassies and whatnot. Yeah. So here is a question where how then do we have this discussion such that IEBC has this information, and do Kenyans living in the diaspora also have information on how best these can be handled? Because here we are talking about, you see, there is Ministry of Foreign Affairs that needs to understand that IEBC needs to have this information, but even best is Kenyans living in the diaspora. Do you have that information, which goes to what Mark was asking in terms of being organized?
Let me tell you, Dennis, we've really provided sufficient information to all these relevant centers, wherever, like ministry, the IEBC, all this information is at their disposal right now. We've explained. We even have an ongoing court case right now, trying to make sure that they have that incorporated in the Constitution. So still, there's setbacks here and there, because I to me, I have a feeling like they're afraid of the diaspora because of the way things are going right now. People are involved. People just want to make sure this time around things are different. So each and every single thing that you've just mentioned, we've provided those resources to the relevant authorities.
Why would they be afraid?
Yeah, exactly my point. Your guess is as good as mine.
Let me get to this. One of the roadblocks you'll face very quickly is not the illegality of things, right? Because I think the IEBC has enough power to create polling stations wherever it is they want, where the diaspora is concentrated. But who is going to fund this?
I know that's a very good question. In March, when we were here in March, we were having a meeting with the JLAC and the the Defense Committee and Foreign Affairs Defense Committee. And I remember one member of parliament just asked a very serious question like that. Like let me ask you, just like in other electorate area, right? So why is it that it's very important for the remittances and all that, but it's not important when the question is put on the desk like, okay, it's remittances. Can we just flip it on the other side? Like, let's just make a decision on how we do these remittances. I mean, like, it's very easy. You know, I mean...
You would imagine it is very easy, but you see we live in a country called Kenya, for which that is not easy in any shape, way, or form. The truth is, you've already said the political goodwill to make sure that diasporans are voting.
That's correct.
It's not there, and I'm telling you, it's not been there since this constitution was rolled in. It's not a now thing, right? You remember 2013? Did you guys vote? No.
No, the margins, actually, they didn't vote. 2017, they did.
Yeah, you see, 2013, you guys didn't vote. So the question still begs that, yes, you do give a lot of diaspora remittances, which we've allocated to other things over time. We will not suddenly wake up 2026 financial year and say, let me allocate to diaspora. You guys will have to somehow organize and be able to say, you know what? All we need you guys to do is bring a returning officer. We have this, right? That if it comes to that, are you guys willing to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We are willing to do that. You know, Mark, what you're saying is something that we discussed at length with the IBC. And then IBC was like, the budget allocation for this diaspora is really minimal.
Very small,
You understand? That's why we ended up in JLAC to discuss and see on their behalf if they can get some funding towards the diaspora, logistics and planning and everything else. At the same time, we offered ourselves. We said we would be willing to be trained to trainers. I mean, like, so that we can use it for civic education and all that to make sure the people are going to do the electoral job and or whatever, they are trained in good time. And again, people are offering to do that. You understand? Okay. Because this is very important for us. For us to get to point B, it has to start from somewhere. By that's why people are really willing to do it. But the roadblocks are there. The legislature, which is the parliament, really has to take this so seriously. If they don't take it so seriously, we can never make any steps further. That's why we've gone through all these other avenues, through Katiba Institute, through you can imagine every office. We've sat down with the Speaker of the National Assembly. We've sat down with the all JLACs, like from the Senate, from the National Assembly. We've had meetings, several organizations, just to try and help us to make sure like the diaspora is part of the team which is going to vote.
Is there concerted effort, Mubek, when we talk about because there are chairmen of different diaspora organizations, kind of like what Mark was saying before. They're across the US. Then we have in Europe, we have in Australia, Asia.
Right.
Is there unity whereby what you're talking about, having a meeting with JLAC, or is it Mobek talking with and a group of people talking with JLAC, and then another group comes and there's duplicity of effort then when it comes to that conversation that is being had? Because if there are many mushrooming conversations all over the place, it kind of waters down the potency of the issue. So is that happening?
Yeah, let me just put this very clear. Probably maybe for those who are watching and who are getting confused with the question that Ndu just put across, it's just very important that we make sure that it is very clear, right?
Yeah.
Right now, the Diaspora Technical Working Group is for the global diaspora.
Okay.
It's not going to earn profits or anything. It's just looking for the welfare of a diasporian. So the diaspora committee, the technical working committee and the executive committee that has come together, those people who are willing to do all that, they come from different organizations in the diaspora, irrespective of what you do, whether it's a welfare, whether it's a business or there and that. So, but all of them, they converge at the Diaspora Technical Working Group. They have a representative, yes, or from one of them, like let's say like OVC, one of which consortium is one of the biggest diaspora organization. They have their member in there who is representing on behalf of OVC, you see.
So, Mobek, I hear you talk in terms of the Diaspora Technical Working Group, how all these other bodies are coming together to speak in one voice. You're meeting with JLAC, you're meeting with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Right.
All point towards one thing that you need, which is political goodwill that will make this work.
That's correct.
From the diaspora, do you think there is political goodwill to ensure that Kenyans in the diaspora and their voices are heard and included in electoral processes?
Man, I bet my money on this. This time around, things are different. The way, even when we started, we said this is what we are doing, people flocked in. They want to be a part of it. It doesn't matter how much it's going to cost, because people have seen how it's happening. You see, like, if you just propose a tax increment in the finance bill for the diasporians, like that is going to invoke you somehow, right? Even if you're somewhere else hiding, in one way or the other, you have to make sure that this is going to affect you. So if you don't come out in the open and get your voice heard, then it's going to be a problem. So this time around, if you're talking about the goodwill is already there. It's out in the open. It's just a crack. The crack in the dawn, man. Trust me on that.
I'm interested in the responses that you get from these organizations who are hearing you, whether it's JLAC today, whether it's representatives of the IEBC, whether it is, members of parliament, committees, working groups that you spoke of. What's the response? First of all, that could then give an idea into the general direction for a solution.
Yeah, I would say the responses are positive, and because I can say like 65%. We're really progressively working towards a certain direction. We're making a lot of progress, and but we can't miss the stumbling blocks along the way as we're trying to advance the next stages. But so far it's going so good. We're making other advances. We're trying to see if we can see the president by I think in next week on 18th. See if there is another goodwill. We're trying to make sure like we bring in more forces who are interested parties and all. Because you see this thing, all these people are politicians, you see. And when you're trying to push this, they are like, what is in there for us? You see? And that kind of cuts you.
You know what's interesting is, we're discussing something as though these politicians have a choice. Remember, this is a constitutional right, and,
Right.
and by law, you must always give out a right in the most available way possible. You must extend the rights of that right as far as possible. So it's not a matter of if, can you please, right? What actually, this is my view. What actually needs to happen is there has to be an electoral roadmap for the diaspora 2027.
Right.
My suggestion would be, and I don't know why I'm a host, and instead of asking questions, I'm giving suggestions. But
It's okay. I mean, you see, you can easily become a diaspora.
Let me tell you my suggestion, right?
Yes.
Put the legal guys together, put economic guys together, and put electoral logistics guys together. Come up with a roadmap that is yours, right? Because if you keep having conversations, you will always have 6 different roadmaps from 6 different people. Because IEBC will have its plan and its budget. Your committees will have their plan and their budget. So my question then is, do you guys have a roadmap? This is 2025. It's 2 years to an election. Do you have a roadmap to make that successful? And a budget, by the way, because...
Absolutely. Us, we have everything. But at the end of the day, this is not an individual process. You see, it's a process which is involving the entire diaspora. At the same time, it's pretty much a constitutional process that is just to take some stages from point A to B, right? And I don't know why at times we struggle so much as diasporians to make it like we want to be factored in the constitution when it's supposed to be our right.
Come on.
I don't
think it's
what I'm
supposed.
saying.
I don't think it's supposed to be your right.
Yeah.
Is
Your right.
your
It's
right.
all right.
So,
because that's
I
why
mean,
I'm trying, like I'm asking myself a question, like why are we training that hard, right? Because you see, when we were having a meeting with the National Assembly, with the Speaker of the National Assembly, he asked a very simple question about the same thing. And we were like, Mr. Speaker, we already know that. Because they said like we are begging. We are not begging. We're only just saying this is what is supposed to be happening. But again, they kill you from one angle. They tell you the budgeting. You understand? So and again, it's just to circle around to the budgeting.
Have you thought? Have you thought? Because that budget issue, for me, it's dead on arrival.
Yeah.
have you thought of either A, going to the Constitutional Court, which is the High Court of Kenya, and then lodging your complaint there so that it is codified into law through the judiciary, right? Saying that ABCD is what you want, the judiciary gives orders to the executive to actually do it, or B, going to the legislature with a bill that then forces them to actually do the right thing. Of course, the court case is easier because the High Court is faster, but also getting MPs to actually sit down and vote into law something that then enforces this. Because if this, and maybe I'm speaking from experience, that approach, my friend,
Yeah, it's hard,
you're
right?
you're climbing a tree upside down.
So you see, that approach, we've already exhausted those avenues already.
You've already gone to
Yes,
court?
yes. We have an active case in court right now.
Okay.
We're trying to make sure like that thing is put into law.
At which level?
We don't. Right now is it's on hearing.
At the High Court or where?
Yeah, at the High Court.
Okay.
Yeah. So we progress. I think we're gonna have another hearing very soon. I need to confirm about the dates about it. I'm not so sure
Okay.
about it.
That's good
Because we have
news.
the team within the diaspora technical working group, which is responsible for that, and we're really trying to make sure we did, because we want to put this. We don't want like how can I say, like it's a word of mouth. Like, okay, we've said we're gonna do it. You know, someone deciding in their desks and that's it. We just want to make sure that thing is in the law. So when we're going to say like point A, B, 3, or A, B, C, we have these stations which are allocated by IEBC. IEBC is ordered to make sure we have those polling stations in these respective areas, and we have people coming there to vote as Kenyans,
Yes.
not as people who are begging to cast their vote or maybe to do their constitutional right.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's take a break at this point. It's important that we do, and I want to link it essentially to the contribution that, you know, this group of diasporians make towards Kenya's economy. It's been touted, it's been ring-fenced, it's been talked about as a way in which, you know, it needs to be protected. But then why not then towards the vote, or why not towards the electoral process? We're having a conversation this morning with Wycliffe Mobek Mogaka. He is the executive committee member of Diaspora Technical Working Group, and we're looking into matters around beyond just the vote, being involved in citizen governance. We're having that conversation this morning. 26 minutes to 9. It continues after this break. All this time, but then why would you think that folks don't want to commit to this? I mean, if you hear that, yes, we'll do something about it, but why would you think that there would not be a larger, broader, more excited response to this, especially when, what was the last number in the billions of shillings that comes in from the diaspora? 600 billion shillings is exactly, and it's progressive money that we are seeing counted off. We've seen many times where the president himself has talked about the money that has come in. The permanent secretary, State Department of Diaspora Affairs, you know, Rosa Njogu talks about that number with us a lot, and says that we cannot, you know, ignore this group of people. So can we not ignore this group of people when it comes to the money, but ignore them when it comes to the desire to be involved in governance? How do you see that?
Oh, man, you know, at times I get tired talking about the contribution that we give to the country and all that, but we forget about the skills that comes along with it. You understand? There are people who really don't contribute maybe directly in terms of money, because as they say, it's black tax and all that. But the worst case scenario that is happening right now is the diaspora is just 30% giving to the country. So what if they give like even 80%? We could be talking about it in trillions. Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because we don't have proper systems which are working in place and all that, people for them to invest and all that. So it brings people to pull back a little bit. Like you see, like right now we're struggling, even the diaspora, to be a part of, to practice their constitutional rights. So how are you going to tell the same person to invest? So there's a larger number of the diasporans which is not counted in. So
Oh, I hear you. So
yes.
essentially what you're saying is that even that 600 billion that we're talking
It's
about
30%.
is nothing
It's
compared
nothing.
to what could actually be.
That's correct.
So the place to actually have this diaspora money is in Kenya, number one.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you won't see even a 50% of that is because you're not making it easy for them to even be part of the process.
Right.
Is that what we're saying?
That's what I'm saying. But you see, let me ask you.
Do they want to be involved?
Yeah, they want to be involved. They want to be involved. But now the process on how to be involved is just murky along the way. Is really, it's just leading you into the karate, leading you somewhere into some oblivion somehow. And there are people, and the moment you leave this country and just go out there, a lot of things change in you. You look at things differently, and you just want to associate yourself with things that are really working. You understand? So for you, for instance, like there's something that I've already discussed before here. Like let's even say in our the mortgage industry in this country, right? How much do we mortgage our interest rate? It's almost 13%, 12.9%. And how many people do we have who have mortgage loans in this country?
It's
less than
3
30,000.
years. Yeah.
That's correct, right?
Yeah, true.
So explain to me how someone is going to invest in our country right now. Maybe, let's say, for instance, like me, I want to take a mortgage loan, whereby right now the government is the one is a real estate company, right?
Yeah.
So how
Mortgage refinance company. Yes.
it's a mortgage refinance company.
Yeah.
Explain to me how someone in the diaspora who has money, maybe someone else, will choose to invest in Kenya at 12% and run away from 4% to 6% in Texas or somewhere. It doesn't make sense, honestly, right? But if we have our things right, okay, let's just start up with the proper structures which are really helping us, so that we can see how can we even move from the 30% contribution, which is just 600 billion, at least come at least to about like even a trillion. But by that we have to harness the diaspora. We have to prove like this is what is happening, because people have gone out there. Us, we are stuck with what we had in the past. When I was here 10 years ago, it's the same thing. You understand? Life is moving so fast.
Mobek, you said that you're meeting the president on the 18th.
Right.
One would want to ask, what is the agenda that you're taking to the president?
The agenda is the same thing that they're discussing, and again, it's the political goodwill. Yeah, because now all these people are involved. Maybe they are personal. I don't think I'm going to say him, but they're going to persuade if they can say, having those talking stages is the big man up there, right? And maybe it's going to be behind us in all this business we're going to push.
But the president has met with Kenyans in the diaspora before. I remember when he was invited to the United States,
Right.
he met with Kenyans in the diaspora. And these were some of the things that were discussed then. So what makes you think that this time round he will hear you and actually implement your views?
Man, this is so funny. At times when I see political leaders coming to the United States or these other countries, they don't come out with those meetings with anything. Yeah, it's what you see on TV. It's just a waste of time. That's the truth.
Well,
That's a waste of time.
well, we can't judge whether time was wasted or
There's
not.
nothing that has ever come out of it from those meetings. That's the most honest part that I can
What-
give.
What do you mean?
Yeah, what I mean is because people just come out there to eat. That's it. And discuss things which are endless, which are not headed anywhere.
Eat literally.
What I'm saying here is just
chicken
having
and
these
rice?
chucky conversations which are headed nowhere. The real issues are not talked about. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like at times when I see political leaders coming into the country, like, a member of parliament is coming to the states to discuss. I'm like, what are you coming to discuss?
Benchmarking.
Benchmark, what are you benchmarking on?
Well, as we move away from benchmarking, which was wasn't it made illegal sometime back? Yeah. But anyway, my question to you is now let's go back to remittances, right? What is the main use of these remittances into the country? Because it's one thing to receive money, it's another to turn that money into another way of making more money. For example, in businesses, in the stock exchange, in the money market. Much of the diasporans, when they're sending money, what is it for?
It's kind of, it lessens the burden of the country, maybe, and the government by injecting money into the people that the government does not take care of, for instance. It goes indirectly, but that makes the economy run so smoothly because there's availability of funds already. So let's say, for instance, I come from a family where I have 5 siblings, right? And all those 5 siblings, they don't work. Okay? But I finance them.
Yes.
Where does that money go?
Well, food, shelter, clothing.
the money rolls around.
Yeah.
The economy becomes smoother, right? Because there is availability of funds, right?
People can spend, yes.
People can spend the money. You understand? So if we have like 10 diasporans who are taking care of 50 family members over here, that makes the economy smoother. So like let me tell you, like demographically, when we go to tribes, which tribes are in the diaspora mostly?
Kikuyu, Kisi, which other ones? A bit of the Luo community. Kalenjin, yes.
So when it comes to investment, how do you look at them demographically as well?
Yes.
Tell us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look at these towns which are being developed in Nairobi, for instance. Which towns are developed? Which are upcoming?
In Kenya, yeah.
Yeah, in Kenya. Let's say, for instance, in Nairobi, Rongai, Ngong, Kitengela, Ruai.
Yes.
You see, money come in through those small entries. Because money are not in these tall buildings.
No.
You understand that, right?
Yeah.
Money is spent in small avenues.
Yeah.
It makes life easier and even for everyone.
Yes.
So money is coming in there. So for instance, today, like these taxes, the way they are going on like this, right? You encroach. If my sister is working and then she earns like 50,000, right?
Yeah.
And the taxes comes in, I don't know, housing levy, blah, 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 she, all these kind of things come in there. How much she was earning, 50,000, it comes down to 30,000. What happens to me? I have to go into my pocket deeper to balance her gauge so that she can easily survive, right? So what happens into my money that I need to invest in?
Okay.
Reduces.
You understand? So technically, I'm knocked off, right? So I have to find a way. So my investment strength lessens. So that's why I'm saying, some of us, we understand some of the things. Can we be a part of the team?
By being part of the team, you say you want your voices to be heard through the ballot.
Yes.
And one way that your voices can be heard through the ballot is by registering.
Right.
And some say, before you even start having these conversations on being part of the voice, that registering while in the diaspora as a voter is not an easy thing. So how are you going about it?
Right now, there's a challenge. One, you cannot use an ID to register. You cannot use a passport to register. So we are still struggling within the ID and the passport.
You cannot.
Why?
Why can't you?
Yet it's allowed.
It's a challenge.
No,
right now.
What's the challenge? Let's
So
be
the
very
challenge
clear
here
about
is, if you go to the embassy...
Because in Kenya, to register as a voter, what you need is your national ID.
Or a passport.
Or a passport. The very same thing that you would use to register as a voter here in Kenya, essentially is you're telling us that in the diaspora, you cannot use
Because
those two
technically,
documents.
if I'm not wrong, right now, using an ID outside the diaspora is invalid.
Okay. Okay. For what purposes?
And again, right now, we need to know if we can register as a voter using the passport. You understand?
Okay, so what has what challenge is being posed here?
And what has been being used for people to vote in previous years?
To register, not even vote.
To register, yes.
Yeah.
But you know, to vote, you have to produce ID as well.
Yeah, I understand. But in this case, to register as a voter in the diaspora, you must have your ID or your passport, yes?
Yes.
But it's posing as a challenge. Why?
Yeah, because you see, because of the living challenges of the people in the diaspora, and at times they don't want to come out in the open. Because
why?
of
Are they doing something
situations. Dodgy? It doesn't have to be something like whatever dodgy or whatever, but the immigration status and all that.
Okay.
It's kind of a little bit challenging. So someone must be having a will to make sure that they want to register and become a voter, right? But at the same time, they need to understand, if me coming out going to be a problem?
So do you now remember my question about unity, and is it an attempt in concert? Remember what I asked?
Yeah, but that question sounds like an unfair problem. Like,
no, but hear me out here, Mobe. If there are some people, if you're saying it's a challenge, people have said the government has made it possible for you to come and register in different embassies. You live in Chicago, whatever, come and register in DC. Whatever the case may be, if it's seen as important as enough, and you talked about the expense, and it's expensive and all of this, but at some point, because of patriotism or whatever, somebody's going to make the attempt to go and register. I know for a fact that you're registered.
Yes.
I know that, right? Now, You're telling me that the challenge being posed here is not that governments, through high commissions or embassies, are refusing Kenyans in the diaspora to register with their passports or IDs. They're not refusing.
No.
The problem here is that because of somebody's status, which is not up to par, they don't want to come out and expose themselves. Remember my question about uniformity in concert?
Right.
So the question is, across board, are Kenyans who are living in the diaspora on the same page when they're saying, guys, let's come out and register because there's power in numbers. If we have a big number, or at the very least, everybody across board doing the same thing, we have a stronger case. But by your own admission, there's a problem because there's a lot of folks who also don't have the proper status issues. So they don't want to come out under the sun.
Now, your question is a little bit swampy. Let me drain it a little bit.
Please do.
Yeah, so...
DJT.
Yeah, so here's the thing. The migration issue is not really such a complicated issue as the way it looks like. The thing that we were trying to do is trying to see, like, how can we have extended registration centers for that? And when they become registration centers, they have to be voting centers, right? That's what we're looking at. Because, people are scattered everywhere in the United States, in the UK, Germany, and all these other countries. So we want to have more polling stations.
And
Do you understand? And those registration centers, like previously, we had mobile consular services, which was done by the Department of Diaspora, State Department for the Diaspora, and which really worked out so well. And so what we were trying to look at, like, how can we make it easier for the diasporans? When things are made easier for them, even the eventuality of it the outcome is so good out of it, right? So by even having these registration and polling stations to be closer by the people where they're living, because people are living and working in different working hours, schedules, and all that. So we were trying to factor them as well. Yeah, because you cannot spend 2 days to go and register and come back 2 days again to come and confirm if how do you call it? Voter confirmation.
Yeah.
Yes. Those biometrics and all those kind of things and all that. It's very expensive for you to fly from, let's say, Minneapolis to DC.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Let's bring some context into this. First and foremost, Kenyan diaspora members must present themselves at a designated registration center, which is typically an embassy or a high commission or a consulate. You need a valid Kenyan passport or a national ID for those within the East African community. Right? You fill a Form J and you provide biometrics data. So perhaps what has been the problem has been the fact that the IBC has not been fully constituted, etc., and they've not been doing some things, but this should be all right. Yeah. So that being said, let's go back to the questions that you're talking about, hindrances to being able to vote, etc., etc.
Right.
Honestly, the biggest interest is logistics and availability.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, we just need to find who is going to fund these things and who's going to volunteer or be hired to do it, because you've got the issue of getting returning officers, because there must be a returning officer for a polling station to be a polling station.
That's correct.
So let's go zoom into the returning officer.
Right.
Have you looked into the laws of how one can become one? Have you looked then into the laws by which you can have many returning officers trained, swear fidelity to the Constitution, and be able to deliver credible results?
Yeah, the last time we had a meeting with IEBC, when we posted them and we told them, like, we can offer ourselves to that, but the Constitution doesn't say that. For you to be an IEBC member, you have to be, so for you to do anything related to the elections, you must be an IEBC official. Staff. And that now, there's a brink there.
But
you understand?
The stuff
what I mean?
I had 2 months before, they're trained in a hall, and then they're given temporary contracts to be returning officers. Most of them are teachers and stuff like that. And then they go become returning officers.
You see, Mark, those things you're saying, we've exhausted all those avenues.
Are you serious?
100%. I'm telling you, I promise you that. If we had much time, we could just open for you like files and everything that we would really explain to IEBC and all these other arms of the government on what we really want. The challenge comes at, like, who is going, the logistics part of it. That's where the problem is, because we want more polling centers, which is proximity to the people, and which is going to be more reasonable, which is reasonable to the people where they're living, and make sure we have that exercise, done more efficiently and accurately, right? And by the law, right? So when we have those challenges like that, so IBC pushes off. They're like, we need more funding when it comes to the issues concerning the diaspora. So we feel franchised.
Yeah.
You understand? So when it comes to the diaspora issue, we feel like we are put outside. So, like, why does it have to be? When the question that came when we were in the jail, when the Defense Committee and Diaspora Affairs, when one member of parliament just raised the question, like, we cannot give that funding towards that. That's when I asked, like, why are you saying we cannot? Why are you feeling like it's money going somewhere into some dungeons? But these are Kenyans who are outside the country who really want to feel like they want to practice.
Yeah.
They want to put their constitutional right to put into place.
Practice. You see, what I hear you, the discussion pretty much with what Mark has quoted is
Right.
the rights that are given by the Constitution. Kenyans in the diaspora and them voting is a right.
It's a right.
Bestowed to them
That's correct.
by the Constitution of the Republic. Therefore, the biggest task now is for IEBC to make sure that Kenyans in diaspora, in one way or the other, are registered. They are facilitated to vote. You understand
Right.
what I mean by facilitation? I mean they make it easy for Kenyans in diaspora
To vote.
That means in the meetings that you're having, when you go to the president, these are the issues that you take to the president and hope that there will be a good political goodwill that will ensure that all these processes are followed.
But I hear you saying that you've done that already. Cliff.
You know, the president is one guy who knows a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and he knows ahead of time. To me, these people know these things. Okay. They're only making it a little bit difficult. But it's like, what is in there for us? Who is the diaspora? Where is this vote headed?
So let me ask this question. Kenyans in the diaspora, are you seen as though all we need from you is your remittances? But when it comes to campaigns, I don't
absolutely.
see you, I don't care. Is
Absolutely,
that the situation?
absolutely, yeah, 100%.
But there's a question now I really want to ask. Of course, you are saying that the political divide, some want you guys to vote, others don't want to vote, right?
Right.
You're seeing the president, right? And then there are also members of what is now becoming known as the opposition. Have you talked to these guys as well?
Man, there's nowhere that we haven't gone. I'm gonna tell you this. There's nowhere that we haven't gone for this.
Yeah.
We've really exhausted all these avenues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow it turns you around it takes you to IBC and it clocks you in there at the budget thing.
Yes.
The money thing there, that's where things are.
How much is this budget thing we keep talking about?
How much is this money? When
Yeah,
you put it all
exactly.
together, how much is it that they're looking for
'Cause
to
I'm
say
not
that
thinking that-
diaspora will vote?
I don't think it's 200 billion, is it?
They haven't given an accurate figure to that, but that's where we're stuck on that.
But you must have a figure in
let's-
mind, eh?
For you to say that it's too much or it doesn't exist, you must have had an amount for you
Yes,
to say
an
that
amount
it's
to
too
think
much.
about.
No, honestly, I'm not gonna say something that I really don't know. I don't have facts towards that. I don't
So
like
when
giving.
IBC tells you they
So-
don't have budget for it,
For what?
okay,
Yeah.
I don't even.
Logistics is
understand. How-
something that like how can I say? It's progressive.
No,
You
I know it's
understand what I'm
progressive.
saying? Yes.
But how do you say you don't have enough money when you don't know how much the damn thing costs?
But let's even agree what this thing is in the
Yes.
first place. So when we're saying that when we're talking about the need for Kenyans in the diaspora to be involved in constitutional as well as patriotic activity, such as the electoral one, that there are certain things that need to happen. And so in order for them to say that, we don't have enough money to do this, we must at least know that if I'm throwing a birthday party, I need cake, I need a tent, I need a few balloons, and I know how much this thing costs for us to come to this party. If I tell you then that I cannot have this party because I cannot afford it, then I know that I do not have 10,000 shillings. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, what are we saying is required? And there must be a price tag to it for them to say that we don't have the resources available.
Exactly.
Right?
In fact,
Do we need to move people do we need to have two constituencies in the United States, for example, East and West?
Right.
Do we need to have a conference on this side and a conference on this other side? And people are going to meet, for example, in the West, going to meet in LA because there's one there. Are we going to meet in DC on this side? And this is how much it's going to cost to have returning officers. This is how much it's going to cost to bring people from Kenya to do the thing. This is how much it's going to cost to have the digitization of the thing set up. There must be a cost to it for somebody to then say that it is too expensive or we don't have the funds.
I think, do you know what's going to help us? I'm sorry, excuse me for that. I'm looking at the point whereby if we invite an IEBC executive official and one diaspora official over here, and then we ask this question. So for purposes of clarity with the viewers and the diasporians as well, to make sure that we have that very accurately. Because for them, this question can come to them, directly to them, so that we know exactly where is the bone of contention.
Well, surprise, surprise, there's no constitutional IEBC set up right now, so, hey.
You see, one thing that would equally just control on where IEBC takes its officials is based on one thing: registration of Kenyans in diaspora,
right?
Upon which IEBC would be able to make decisions on where they would send their staff.
But that's my point.
But then again, there is the problem of, like you said, there are challenges when it comes to you registering. But then again, is IEBC doing everything to help you register?
But you see, you guys are putting the cart before the horse. There's no way you can tell me you cannot afford something.
Yeah.
If you don't know how much
what
the
it is.
costs.
You don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But one of the suggestions that perhaps, you've exhausted every avenue. Have you considered telling them that you will fly to Kenya 20 volunteers to be trained, right, so that they don't have logistic costs, and they're given the materials for voting, and they go with them to the diaspora?
I think we will consider that.
Yeah.
But then again, they will just turn it into the constitution part of it. Like, you have to be an IEBC official by the constitution.
All the
how it
returning
says.
officers of polling stations and smaller stations are not permanent employees of the IEBC.
We're running
Let's
towards,
be clear.
We're running towards the end of it, but it's a question that comes, and I think maybe that's one thing you kind of alluded to before, Mobek, is that, Christina, she lives in the diaspora, and she says, you know what, right now, and even Sonnet says, right now, the best option that we have is to come back home and vote. Is that too much at the moment?
Yeah, right now, we are, that's too much for a diaspora to ask. Right now, what we are looking at is just to have more members in the diaspora, maybe to be nominated, or maybe to be in elective offices. See if we can just fight it into by our own. Yeah, because it looks like no one is going to listen to you, So unfortunately.
I hear you. It looks like one of those things that you need to continue going at. You keep, it's like the woodpecker. You keep going until you get to that hole.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it needs to happen. You can't give up.
Oh, never.
We'll never
give up.
Too big a number. Even if it was one person, then their rights need to be chased after. Necessary to have those conversations. It's good that we can do that here. To just have us alive to the conversations that are going on and the things that are being done, and just hoping that group, large group of people, significant enough to be part of the process, is actually considered. Right?
Yep.
Thanks for being here this morning. We know you flew all the way out just to be on this show, and we're going to keep it at that.
Really?
No matter the narrative.
Thank you so much.
Wycliffe Mobek is the executive committee member of Diaspora Technical Working Group. Has been here this morning, joining us in our conversations. Thank you so much. Good morning at 9 a.m.